Good evening. Welcome to the weigh-in, round 3 of the first ever High Stakes Duel here at the PokerGO studio. Daria Resort and Casino. Chance for Phil Hellmuth to walk with $400,000 or for Antonio Esfandiari to welcome a challenger. Gentlemen, we're back again for round 3. How are we feeling?
I told you not to ask that question, but I will say this.
You did, right.
I've got the Shadow Creek hat on.
Very nice.
And the PGA Tour was here. I bet Morikawa. You bet him too, right?
I had a little Morikawa, yeah.
And unfortunately didn't get, but you have not played Shadow yet.
I haven't played Shadow yet.
And you're going to go out with me.
There it is.
We'll get it done.
Buttering
Now I have
me
to
up
flip my
already.
lid to pay the day bills.
Do you have a locker there?
Go.
I do have a locker there since '09.
Shocking.
Woohoo!
Just checking.
All right.
Are you trying to get my ego up?
Well, you were going to say it. I might as well say it for you.
It was not going to.
Okay. All right, boys. Shadow sounds great, but we have some serious business to attend to today. We have a $400,000 no-limit match.
How much?
Yeah, 400 times.
It doesn't feel like
Also,
400K.
the glory, it almost feels like more. This thing is just. How are you feeling, Antonio?
I feel great. I think it would be pretty brutal to go 0-3. Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously, if I win today, I'll at least end up with a win.
Yeah.
I'll actually end up winning. But I'll still have lost 2 out of 3 matches, which is not something I wanted to do. But going 0-3 will be just absolutely devastating. He'll own me for the next 5 years, and I'll be his BITCH, and that'll be it. Life will continue.
I mean, the guy beat me for 2 decades, outdrew me and got
1
lucky
decade.
against me. You know, so
Outdrew against
you
him.
can suffer.
That's it.
A little bit,
I only
Antonio.
won when I outdrew against him.
It's very hard to win 3 in a row against anybody. We see it in sports. We see it, you know, it's kind of a big thing in sports. You can't beat an NFL team. So it's not an easy thing to do.
I understand, but you're 66% of the way there, buddy.
These first 2 matches, are you thinking it might be adjustment time? Poker, just strictly poker-wise, because obviously you took some rough ones. I mean, you know, but just have you watched them back, and are you coming into this one with some new ideas?
Not really. I watched them, but I feel like what I was doing was working. But when it came down to the critical moments, I think I was a little unlucky. And I think Phil played really well. And he deserved the W's. And hopefully I get a chance at redemption today.
What about you, adjustment-wise? I mean, you're 2-0, but I'm sure
No,
you're marinating on things.
Whenever I come into a heads-up match, the one thing I do is I make sure I did watch what he's doing. But the one thing I do is I make sure that I have no preconceived notions of anything. No matter what he tells me, no matter what I saw, no matter what I hear, none of it will be believed. It's just I have a framework for exactly how to play, and I'm going to stick to that framework. And you know, I wasn't really planning on making a bunch of big bluffs, but Antonio played so good that he forced me to do that, and I wasn't planning on making a bunch of big calls. But I had to do a couple of those, and I was expecting to have to lay some hands down. I made some really good laydowns, and I think that was the difference in the first match or 2.
You did in the second, especially a few dynamite laydowns. Let me ask you this question, Phil. Seems like any time the topic of you comes up amongst the amongst the current crop of
The Wizards.
the Wizards.
The Wizards.
Poker's weird because it lacks sort of the highlight reel of high level.
You know
play
what
that
pisses
almost,
me off?
Yes. What pisses you off? No, please.
What pisses me off is that these kids, they couldn't see my whole cards for all those final tables, for all those championships, for all those day after
Some
day
of them had things to
that I
say
made.
about times they could see your whole cards.
Right, sure, but they see me, exactly. You see me, I think Fedor Holtz attacked me. And he said, you
said-
punted the
That's
300,
what he
let me
said.
finish. You punted a $300,000 bind. I punted 3 $300,000 binds, not 1, not 2, but 3 of them. So what? I mean,
I agree with you.
I mean, that's not where I always assumed that they knew I was a great player because I just kept winning and getting down there.
I don't
but
think
for
that's
some
the
reason,
case.
yeah, they don't understand it. But you're talking about really, less than 0.5% of poker. You're talking about You know, the world in general, I have 99.9% on my side, which is a huge number. But amongst the top players, there's quite a bit of dissension. Is Phil great or not? And it's frustrating because I just keep getting deep and winning and winning and winning and winning. And they don't understand it. And let me tell you something, Nick.
Do you respect them?
Some absolutely.
I mean, do you think
that's the difference?
In every sport, usually the sport evolves, and there is a new crop of you see it I mean, it's all over the place. It's the way of the world. You improve upon your predecessors. This is a mental sport, so you can hang around. It's not like a physical sport and
Nick,
improve and evolve. But let me ask you this: do you think that the current group do you think No Limit Hold'em is at the strongest it's ever been? And do you think that some of the best players of today represent the strongest poker ever?
No, I don't believe that. The difference is this. Back in the day, right around 1999, we had all these people that were amazing at reading people.
Okay.
And those are the people that won every tournament. It was great. The people that are great at reading. Okay. And then all of a sudden, you brought 10 million online players that had no reading abilities at all. They were easy to slice and dice. I beat 9.999 million of those 10 million players because you just knew what they had every time. It's like they
But what
couldn't read.
What about right now, though?
I'm
I
getting to
feel
that.
almost it's a little unfair even to have to ask you this, because the way I look at you personally, not that you're obviously a legend. You're in your 50s, just objectively. Most sports 25-year-olds don't say this player, who's dominated for a long time. I mean, you had your time, which spoke for itself, and you're still here performing at a high level. No, I'm just saying. So that's
Nick, last year I had a second, a third.
I'm saying I really appreciate you,
Thank you.
for what you've meant for poker and all of that. And I think that everybody wins when a Phil Hellmuth is just, you're very important for the sport. You take it seriously. But obviously you've just hurt a lot of people's feelings along the way. A lot of these younger players, I feel in these high rollers or whatever, they have an emotional response to you being considered anything other than
super emotional.
I mean, no, but
super emotional.
And it's interesting to me. I mean, what do you think about it? It's interesting.
Let me just say one more thing, Nick, because I didn't get to the. Let me get to the crux of the matter. We'll go to Antonio.
Somebody just says he's good. Somebody just said, I got to say, Hellmuth impressed me the other night. And then you have players saying, they're like,
I'll be honest. I watched the playback and I was impressed. I didn't think Phil had in him to play as good as he did, and he did. So my opinion of Phil has changed. I've always thought he was kind of a fish, and I've regained a lot of respect for him, So
the difference is this: reading ability, Nick. That's all it is.
Well, I think some players feel they've transcended the reading ability as far as understanding the inner workings of the cards. Do you think that there's something to that?
Something, yes, but they're on the wrong track in a lot of ways to me. So when you look at GTO, once you understand, and this is on me, I didn't spend any time studying GTO. I finally spent 4 or 5 hours looking at it one day, and I won the tournament the next day. Because I'm like, that's what they're doing? They're floating me on the flop every time?
Phil,
then
don't you think that that's a little bit insulting to the theoretical pursuits that are kind of endless? You spent 4 or 5 hours and you said, well, I got it.
Nick, you have to let me finish. No, I mean,
right,
but I understand. I mean, I couldn't understand why they kept calling on my bets on the flop, right? I was still having deep runs. What I'm trying to tell you is any theory that's devised without reading ability, they cannot be greatest. They cannot be the greatest. If you can't look at your opponent and tell me if he's weak or strong in a critical moment, go home. You can game it out all you want.
Understood.
Let me finish. GTO theory says, there's a 48% chance that he's bluffing here. I'm going to make the call.
But isn't it kind of...
But I still get to look at them. And I'm not saying I have a great read on Antonio, but I get to look at them.
Your live results speak for themselves. That's all true, but there are other players who are great at both too, right? Aren't there players who are theoretically sound and they can also put the eyes on you and take a Fedor Holz, he's probably pretty good at live reads. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
You would have to just assume that. But it is just interesting.
Who's the guy from England? I was watching him last night.
There's a few from England. I mean, Chidwick
has amazing reads.
Chidwick is an all-time player. I mean,
yes, so I give him a lot of credit. I give Fedor a lot of credit. But just because you have 25 guys traveling around the world playing in all the high rollers, they're not all the best players.
I understand.
That's all I'm saying.
Poker is weird.
That's all I've ever said. But for some reason, number 10 on the list is feeling like, Phil's disrespecting me.
Where would you rank yourself in no-limit tournaments right now?
I mean,
Just if there could be, if somehow the good Lord above could come down and give us true rankings on our ability in live no-limit tournaments, where would you rank yourself?
I think if I
Number
played,
one.
I think if I played 100 tournaments against everybody, and we played in all different kinds of formats, or maybe 500 different tournaments, you would see me right at the top, if not at the top. Someone did a study in 2014, Nick, and they did. Here's the return.
I have a better question.
USA Today did
asked-
the study, Nick.
Who's better than you at live no limit tournaments,
Excellent
if any?
question.
I'm
there
not
one?
sure. I'm not sure that. I don't know. I mean,
There you go.
There's
your
certainly.
answer, Mr. Schulman.
No, but there's guys that you got to give a lot of credit to Alex Foxen. You got to give a lot of credit to Chidwick.
Are they
You gotta
better
live
than
How
a-
about some of
Is
these
Chidwick
super
better than
young
you?
guys too, like that
Is
Michael
Chidwick better than you?
Adamo, Or
You know who I think's
Is
pretty
he
amazing?
better than you?
that
Yes or
guy's
no?
scary. I mean, there's some great young
Some
players.
great players out there for sure. And
Is-
so is Chidwick better than
Yeah.
me? I mean, it's close. Isn't that good enough?
I think your self-belief is a lot. Like, people want to rob people of their self-belief. Why not? I mean, you know, it's one of those things. I mean, and that's sort of what keeps poker going. You know, people believe in themselves and they sort it out on the felt. I mean, okay, all right. So the belief is there. I mean, it's going to be unwavering. It is interesting, the reaction that you elicit from.
I mean, Nick, who's done better in the last year in World Series tournaments than just this last year?
Well, you know what they say.
Second,
they
third,
say,
fifth,
they say the World
sixth,
Series
11th,
tournaments
13th.
don't mean anything. That's something that you hear people say. What's the bracelet? This is how you judge, or this is how, or it's actually based on cash, or it's based on this.
You
and
know,
that.
when I came
It's
up
a very
into
broad
poker,
world. I
all
mean,
the way until 2010, we agreed that World Series of Poker bracelets were everything. Now they want to change the definition because they can't win them. That's fine. Change the definition. Playing some high rollers against 10 businessmen and the same 20 people, and these guys travel around the world, and you tell me which of these guys is up a lot of money in the last 4 years. Because you're going to find on that list of 20, there's a lot of break even.
Up a little bit.
Sure, let's give Jason Kuhn credit.
I'm just throwing names. But listen, I hear you.
There's some merit to what Phil is saying.
There's some merit,
You know?
and it could get a little smug
It's not
out
easy
there.
to win bracelets.
It can
and
get
the
a little.
guy has 115, as much as it hurts everybody on planet Earth.
Without a doubt.
He's 115.
Without a doubt. And I think that yes, and you're right, we can't have it both ways with the bracelet. It's coveted, it means nothing. And a lot of this is subjective too with these guys. You know, I mean, this is it can get a little elitist, but at the same time, I think players who feel like they are so polished and booked up, for lack of a better, and just knowledgeable as far as the cards work in this no limit hold'em, I guess they feel a bit of that they wish you would sort of, but I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask them. And you know what? That leads me to my next question. Let's say
Nick,
let's say you get it done. Please,
I just
please.
want to say one thing, and just want to say that what they're doing with the mathematical, with the mathematical theories, is really impressive. It really is. They've taken it a long, long ways, but I still think that reading ability trumps that, and that's the gist of what I have to say. Go ahead to your next question.
I agree with you to a certain degree. I will just say that the new wave of players are pretty close to impossible to read because they're just like robots. You know, they wear their scarf. They don't do anything different, whether they're betting X or Y or bluffing or what. I mean, it's a lot harder to read people these days than it used to be. Now, you might say it's different. I don't know, but
Well,
that's my
Antonio,
experience.
you haven't played that many tournaments in the last 3 years.
True.
Touche.
Like 10 of them,
I don't.
maybe?
It's probably less.
Yeah, less.
Especially
So
the high rollers, because there's no enjoyment for me. You know, when I play poker, I like to have fun.
I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I love it. I love that robotic.
Well, it's
I
true.
like that environment.
Well, it's true. I don't want to go play with 8 robots.
Well, especially when they stare
It's
at you
not
for
fun
30
to me.
seconds
There's no-
every
they
They
don't
don't know
wanna-
what the cards are doing, and you put chips in
30
the pot.
seconds they stare at you, then 30 seconds to make a decision. I have better things to do in my life than sit there and have a staring battle with 7
Antonio's-
robots.
Well, that's a
To
little
Antonio's
bit.
point-
That's a little bit.
No,
Come
and to
on.
Antonio's point,
We all
they,
like what we like. I mean-
they drove a lot of people out of poker doing exactly that. Now I think they've been better the last 2 years.
And they also don't, a lot of them don't have sponsors. You know, they're there to get their money. I mean, they're not there to pretend that it's this,
There's a
like,
better way to get
that
their
it's a
money.
social night out at the office, though. But I'm saying
I understand, but there's
there is
got to be a
room.
fine balance in between.
Well, there is a room for top-level competition in this sport, right? Where they don't have to pretend to be anything. They don't have to be talkative or sociable or personable or
That's
anything. Right?
fine,
There is
but don't,
room
but
for
don't
that,
study
right?
for
But
30 seconds every time.
the
and then take,
intimidation
you know,
I
is
agree with
unnecessary.
that. That's kind of that. But I think a lot of the time they're trying to intimidate each other. If you're both hitting these
but
tournaments
if
up,
you're an amateur stuck in the middle and you got 7 people trying to intimidate you by staring at you, you don't really want to go play with that.
I guess that's.
It's not good for poker
There's
as a
some
whole.
truth to that, but
that's
the
all I'm
amateurs
saying.
can see through the schmooze sometimes too, you know. So I hear what you're saying, but it's a tournament. You know what you sign up for. I know what you're saying, and I mean, but let me ask you this, Phil: if you get it done today, and one of these, you know, one of these young kind of lions comes in and wants to play, you know, are you looking to play? You could walk. You could. You know, would you like a heads-up match against like a Fedor Holes, for example?
If I win, then I'll accept another match. But if I win, then I'll play for 50,000 again and try to win 3 in a row against
Try to
whoever I
run it
play
up again
against.
against
That's
somebody.
my plan. If I'm allowed to do that, and I'll accept matches from almost everybody. Why would I
you get
say
in
no
there
to
tough
anybody?
and just play heads up versus Stephen Chidwick or Dan Smith or
No.
just
Well,
no interest?
I have like,
I understand.
what do I need to prove?
I understand.
You know?
I think it would be fun to play Chidwick.
Would you want to?
I mean, I think I told you, I think he's top notch, you know. But I think it would be fun. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be fun to play anyone, but playing someone who has made it their life to, not their life, but like, and I'm not talking about Chidwick in particular, but who has spent so much time studying and is so good at GTO and all these things, I just feel like there's better places to gamble.
You know, it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah,
I think Chidwick is one of the near the top of the list of the people that I wouldn't want to play, but I would play. And
you
so,
know, speaking of your point about the high rollers, that it's 25 guys going around and then claiming that there's a lot of great no limit players out there that you've probably never heard of. There's a whole web of
that's what I've been trying to say.
players
That's
out
what I've
there.
been trying to say.
But-
There's all these great players out there.
Well, I was going to say too, just in sports, you do go by results. You do judge somebody on what they've accomplished. So it is sometimes you got a young guy who knows deep down they're great. You got to show it in poker. You have to get it done, and you have to get some wins. So that just is what it is. I mean, this is kind of a tense match for you a little bit because you've done so well. You've won the first 2. You've looked great. But if you lose this one, you're just
Thanks for mentioning that the
you're just
pressure's on
stuck
me.
all of a sudden. Do you feel that pressure of
Well, look
like?
at Antonio, as loose as can be, nothing to lose,
You
really.
both seem pretty loose, but you could feel it a little bit beneath. Do you feel like there's kind of no pressure on you because it just hasn't gone well? You've been getting cooler. It's been like, you know what I'm saying? So
the only
you
pressure
said
is a
losing
lifetime
3
of needling from
3 in a row.
people I play with. You know, to lose to Phil 3 times in a row would be brutal.
There's-
But as far as actual pressure, no, I don't. We're just a couple of buddies gambling. I mean,
do you feel like the dog after what's gone on in the first couple matches? Because I feel like people watched it and were surprised and think that maybe you're kind of out of poker and this guy is like very much still about it, and maybe you're a dog. Maybe he's been studying and all that. Do you feel that way?
no, but if people feel that way, I'm happy to bet some more on the side if they want. I'm available.
I mean, there it is. What about you? Do you feel like the favorite? You
I mean,
always kind of feel like
you have
the
to
favorite.
you have to understand that when I play my best poker, I'm pretty tough. You know, I think I can be. I think when I'm at my best, I think I am the greatest poker player in the world right now today. When I'm at my best, because I have unbelievable reads.
In no limit hold'em.
Right, but I've certainly punted my fair share of tournaments, some big ones. In the
Yes,
last
I
few
thought
years.
it was a little bit to point out a tournament that a 300K. It's such a small sample size. Yes, of course. I've lined up in I've kicked some long ones myself.
Yeah, we had 100K 4 years ago buy-in. One of the, I'm the only guy that has 3 top 10s in the one that he won. What are those ones called? The $1 million buy-in.
The one drops.
I'm the only guy with 3 top 10s and a 1 drop. Look it up. And so I've only played in like 4 of them, So yeah, that one, the 100K I punted too. I had a massive chip lead, and Coleman had a massive chip lead, and I thought we were going to be heads up, and I got tired, and blew my chips, and finished like 5th or something. I mean that.
Do you want to play the high roller scene when poker when live poker start? Like, do you feel competitive against those guys because they get out there and they not all of them, I mean,
What do I have to gain? Okay, Nick, my stated goals, and I wrote a book on positivity just on goals. My goals are to win World Series of Poker tournaments. That's what I come out for.
Fair
Now,
enough.
on the business side, we're launching our 3rd SPAC October 26th.
Your third what?
Well, the first SPAC, we took a company that's worth $2.4 billion out public. So right now, I'm doing these very high, late deals.
Well, listen, your
and
business
that's where I can
ventures
make my money.
are your
No, Nick,
business
what I'm
ventures.
trying to.
I'm saying, do you want to compete with the consensus best no-limit players in the world as just a part of like, it's an interesting story to see because there's a little bit of, I don't know what to call it, a little bit of animosity at this point. I think they feel disrespected. I think you feel disrespected. Or it's just like you said, it's just the World Series.
I mean, I have
other things.
In 1999, I decided to do the business stuff, and let me finish my point.
Of course.
And so that's how I'm trying to make my real money, okay? And when it comes,
saying, I'm
but
not
I want to
talking
be
about
the
poker.
greatest poker player. I know, but let me finish. I want to be the greatest poker player of all time, okay? And I realized that the only path, the only way I could do that was by winning World Series of Poker tournaments, by winning the Diamond Jim Brady, all the important tournaments of the day, and I won them all. I won every one. I didn't win Amarillo Slim's big one. And so I won all these, I put together all these tournaments that I've won in my life. And now, do I feel like coming down here to play a bunch of $50,000 buy-ins with 25 people every day, the same 25 people? No, is that
The same 25 people that are willing to show up and put up that 50, though. I mean, it is pretty pure. It's not like
yeah,
it's
but
not
how many
like-
of those people have 100% of themselves?
Well, I mean, that's a different conversation. I don't know if you
No.
would have 100% of yourself.
No, I
if
mean
you
I've
played
seen
it.
guys win it that have 3% of themselves. I have over 90% of myself today.
Three is extremely low. That but yeah.
Yeah, but the point is, you see a lot of these guys winning. They have between 5 and 20% of themselves. All right, and then they come and they say, "Oh,
hear
Phil,
that?
why aren't you playing with us?"
You hear that, boys? I mean, well, what about you, Antonio? You think it'll ever happen for you again? You get back into poker. You just want to play for the love of the game. It's not about the best spots. It's not about your back in tournaments, in
Yes.
high buy-in tournaments. You get the itch.
It will happen again.
It
but
will.
Right now, I'm focused on my family and kids and whatnot. I
have
mean,
a family
I
and
do
a kid.
enjoy
I'm still
playing poker
right
tournaments.
now. Yeah.
But to leave them to go play poker tournaments is not something that I'm interested in.
Well, I mean, yeah, I can't argue with that.
I mean, anytime
You
I'm
could
sitting
bring
at a
them.
poker tournament, oh, but they're not going to be here. It's like,
I understand. So right now you're focused on the kids.
Of course.
But one day you think you'll come back.
I think so, yes. And hopefully by that time, poker is a little more fun.
I have a feeling you're more likely to come back if you go 0-3 versus old Philly boy over here. I think that.
No,
might-
but I'll challenge them again to do it again. No
All right.
problem.
Well, listen. I think I'm excited to watch this. I hope everybody at home
Street
is
poker.
excited, and let's get it on, gentlemen, one more time. Good luck to you
Let's go.
both. And that's it. Good luck. Enjoy.